10 good flying shoot 'em up blasters for the Atari ST coming up next. Horizontal shoot 'em ups, not a genre usually associated with Atari systems, and especially the ST, where scrolling the screen horizontally seemed to be the utmost technical defeating challenge for many multi-system game porting teams. But, contrary to what some might believe, there are some decent shooters on Atari's multi-purpose workhorse computer, and we're going to take a look at 10 of them today. These 10 run the gamut from well-coded arcade ports to smashing homebrews, but all have to have on offer fun blasting to any ST game player, or they did not make it on this list. Note, I wanted to play the beginning music for the game right here, but YouTube gave me a copyright strike. It's a Depeche Mode song. The first title we're going to look at today is Bold by Laurent Kermel. This is version 1.1b. This mouse-driven GFA basic game, originally released for free in 1989 for the ST and upgraded to the STE in 2004, was inspired by Capcom's Sidearms. As with 6 or 7 other games by Laurent, it was only ever given away to friends and never had a commercial or licenseware release. In his review of Bold on Atari Legend, ST Graveyard had this to say: "I still don't understand why this game was never released commercially. I bet it would have been a great success. Personally, I think Bold can easily be compared to R-Type. It all looks so professional for a shareware game. I had a lot of fun playing it, but it might be a bit fast and frantic at start. You have to get used to the controls, but once you're there, you'll have a hunger for more once you've completed all 5 levels of the game." Bold has a 9 out of 10 rating on Atari Mania, and I personally find it technically well made and fun, but a very difficult challenge. Next up is Dragon Breed, released by Activision in 1989. Based on an IREM arcade machine, this, along with Saint Dragon, is one of 2 very similar horizontal shooting dragon games that arrived in 1989 for the ST. I find this Arc Development's creation the better of the 2, where you ride an invincible dragon, curling his tail for protection, and collecting power-ups to blast aliens and bosses. The Good. CV&G magazine gave Dragon Breed 90%, saying, "This one's slower than the Amiga version, but Dragon Breed on the ST still packs a powerful punch in the shoot 'em up stakes." The Mid. ST Format gave Dragon Breed 68%, saying, "It falls short not because of inadequate programming, but because it's a poor arcade game to start with." The Bad. To paraphrase the German pixelheroes.de, it actually looks better than the Amiga version, but it's much more difficult than the Commodore 64 version. The third game on our list is Menace, released in 1988 by Psygnosis. Menace was ported from the Amiga, and while the original makes great use of the custom hardware in J. Miner's Wonder Computer, the ST holds its own even if the developer didn't quite have a handle on how to code the ST. He still did a decent job given the time and budget constraints. 6 ruthless dictators have collaborated to create the planet Draconia, which contains some of the most gruesome and harmful life forms imaginable, all indulging in some rather unsavory actions. Thus, you must go in your spaceship and destroy them all. The good. ST user gave Menace 80%, saying, "Menace is a winner, there's no doubt about it." The mid. CV&G gave Menace 73% and said, "Menace is unlikely to win any awards for technical excellence or for the advancement of science, but it's a playable and addictive blast with enough depth built in to make it last." And the bad. In their 75% review, the Games Machine said, "The panel and your ship are both yellow and black. Even considering the ST's relative limited color capabilities, a better scheme should have been worked out." Note, I'm playing an upgraded version of Menace that adds white to the yellow and black colors. Cybernetics, The First Battle, from Vision Software in 1992, is the 4th game on our list. As a wonderful defender mixed with drop zone and asteroid shooter, Cybernetics doesn't seem to have been given a proper release on the ST, other than as an ST format magazine cover disc feature.
Entering sector.
AtariMania.com users are quite fond of it, giving it 8.2 out of 10. Personally, it's one of my favorite hidden gems on the ST and the Amiga. Speaking of the Amiga, there are no ST reviews of Cybernetics that I could find, but Amiga reviews were very typical, with Amiga Power giving it a whopping 100%, which I kind of agree with, while the Swedish Dator magazine gave it only 60%.
Attack wave detected. Sector cleared.
A year or so back, I had Cybernetics in a video about all the Asteroids games on the ST. Obviously, it's more Defender than Asteroids, but no matter which of these classics is a favorite of yours, you'll want to play this game on your Atari. The 5th entry today is R-Type Deluxe, the STNICCC preview from Digital Interactive 2015. While the original R-Type and R-Type 2 ports for the ST are pretty well done, they were knocked off this list by this 2015 R-Type DX demo, which targets the STE. It does a great job of showing what the STE could do with a port like this. Here's a list of some of the STE enhancements. Digital soundtrack, digital effects, 531 colors on screen for the introduction screen, 25 on-screen colors during gameplay, hardware blitter support, hardware DMA sound, hardware STE palette switching, and STE hardware scrolling. Of course, there are no reviews of this version, but Atari Mania users have deservingly given it 85% so far. In 2016, sad news came about when BOD, the developer of this budding masterpiece, passed away. Atari Crypt had this to say about his passing. It is with great sadness that I inform you of the death of Stephen Jones, aka BOD. More recently, he was the gentleman behind the STE R-Type Deluxe, an eagerly anticipated upgrade to an already ace game, and was highly regarded as the biggest STE project for years. He demonstrated to the entire retro gaming world just what this machine was capable of in the hands of someone with talent and commitment, something we as Atari ST owners appreciate more than most. Next up is Anarchy, a 1990 release from Psygnosis. Wayne Smithson's Anarchy is a little bit of the result of a West Coast, East Coast style rap battle between ST programmers. In a letter to ST Format, Wayne originally called out Menace programmer Brian Watson for his marginal comments on the ST capabilities, and then produced a demo called It Can't Be Done that showed off multiple levels of parallax on the plain old ST. And in turn, this eventually turned into this Defender-style shooter. Even though the manual is quite extensive, at heart, Anarchy is pretty basic. Fly around the looping Defender-style level, shooting all the nasties, picking up power-ups, and trying to keep your ship afloat long enough to blow up the bosses. The Good. In its 96% review, CG&V magazine said, the sheer quantity of animated stuff on the screen at once is simply astounding, and coupled with the amount of aliens, bullets, and other stuff, it's enough to make the mouth water. To be totally frank, this is Defender to the max. Missed this one, and regret it forever. The Mid. In its 63% review, Ace stated, Anarchy is a very competent clone, which is certainly worth a look if you don't already have a Defender-style game. The Bad. In its 50% review, the Games Machine UK said this, shift movement is slow and unresponsive, firing even more so. You'd do better to hunt out the original arcade machine and buy that. Which, to me, is really strange because was the original Defender arcade machine £25 at that time? Anyway, I like this game much more than those last two reviews. Next up is Tecmo coin-op conversion Silkworm, released in 1989 by Virgin. Silkworm adds to the classic horizontal shooting formula by adding a second concurrent player that can attack by land in a jeep. Basically, you both attack the enemy while being auto-scrolled to the right and try to get to the end of level Goose helicopter boss. Killing this meanie will result in extra firepower for the next level. The Good. In its 5 out of 5 budget review, The One magazine said this about the ST version. Surprisingly, for a complex coin-op, the conversions by random access are superb and actually do justice to the original machine. Unusually, Silkworm is a little faster on the ST than the Amiga, but the Amiga is probably a little more balanced. The Mid. ST Amiga format gave it 70% and had this to say. For all its action and attention to detail, Silkworm is just another good shoot-'em-up. Animated sprites aren't large enough, and the later levels are so ridiculously difficult that long-term interest doesn't last. And the Bad. The worst thing that was said about Silkworm in a contemporary review was by Ace when they added, "And there's plenty to blast, so it'll keep you busy for a while, and it's guaranteed to take years off the life expectancy of your joystick fire button," in their 75% review. Sideways is a 1989 prototype that was not given a release until 2009 by its author, Jamie Woodhouse. It's a Uridium-style game with brilliant visuals that runs at 50 FPS on a stock STFM. At his fantastic ST Games website, Atari Crypt, the Crypt Keeper had this to say about Sideways. "What a shock it was booting this up for the first time. It's impossible not to be impressed by what is a ridiculously exciting shooter. The controls feel natural and responsive, with precise turning and acceleration. Possibly, it's better than Uridium. Each level is stuffed full of baddies, and there are power-ups for increased firepower, shields, weapons, etc. However, not everything has been implemented, so learn the landscapes and you'll be playing for hours. Unfinished or not, it's absolutely superb." Number 9 is the upgraded version of Uridium. The original Uridium was released for the ST as early as 1987 by Mindscape in the USA. It is so rare, though, that no English language magazine reviewed the ST version of this C64 classic. In 2017, Peter Putnick released his own STE upgraded version that adds blitter scrolling and DMA sampled music. Peter had this to say about his upgrade. The ST version of Uridium is known as slow and not playable. Usually people blame the lack of hardware scrolling support for that, but scrolling itself is actually not too bad. What is very bad is the slow ship control. It accelerates poorly, turning 180 degrees takes so much time, it makes it so hard to play, it's impossible to finish some levels. I went in and improved it. Better scrolling is done by the blitter chip. Faster controls needed a lot of tracing and code examining. The version seen here is Peter's version, but I did an update that adds a sampled looping version of the original C64 tune to Peter's version. A hard drive image of this version, suitable for emulators, is available at the blog post linked below. The final game for today's list is, well, let them tell you.
Supa Zazai.
Yeah, that's it. A single-life bullet hell tribute to retro gaming, released in 2018 by Atari Legend, and coded by the team at Cerebral Vortex Software Development. Cerebral was also responsible for the absolutely stunning take on Donkey Kong for the ST called Crash Time Plumber. Atari Legend has a full review with some insights written by ST Graveyard. Here's a summary. Supa Zazai was originally developed by game coder Dr. Floyd. This might ring a bell to some French internet users, as Dr. Floyd is the webmaster of the GameOpat website and the immensely popular GameOpat forum. He developed other games for the ST as well in the early 90s. However, the ST version of this game was rewritten from the ground up by Templeton of Cerebral Vortex fame. It is their second adaptation of a Dr. Floyd game for the ST, the first being Crash Time Plumber, which, by the way, also finished first at the Silly Venture competition. While Cerebral Vortex created mostly games for the Jaguar, they are also known for their ST and Falcon demos. And that's all for this time. I certainly found more than 10 fun horizontal flying shooters for the ST, so we'll cover 10 more in another episode. Next time, we'll most likely look at 10 one-on-one style fighting games for the ST, and hope we can find some good joystick breakers. So until then, have fun playing your favorite horizontal shooters on the platform of your choice in the Vertical Blank.
We were children of the Silicon Revolution, an X generation conscripted to fight the console and home computer wars. A product of an analog 70s childhood, we came of digital age in the 80s, believing we could affect the world 8 bits at a time. Armed with joysticks, full-stroke keyboards, Jolt Cola, and MTV haircuts, we proceeded into the Vertical Blank. There, we stayed up late at night, devising incantations from D&D rulebooks and beginner listener's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. Video games were the match, and programming was the fuse, as the infinite possibilities of the digital world exploded into the internet age to come. We are Generation Atari.
Into the vertical life.